Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. After two awesome videos we recently posted, the XCMG XDE 260 ride in part 1 and the Terex NTE 240 in part 2, and after a ton of positive comments and support, we decided to bring you part 3. And who knows, maybe part 4 is coming too if you end up liking this one as much as the last two. Seriously, big thanks to all of you for the love and all the great comments. So yeah, we're doing part 3, but this time with a different truck. Yep, as you've already seen, today we're rolling with the Belaz 7558 series. A lot of you keep saying Belaz is a Russian manufacturer, but nope, it's actually from Belarus. The 7558 series falls into the smaller haul truck category, with a payload of about 220,000 pounds, or around 100 tons. It's built for moving loose rock in tough open pit conditions, on haul roads, in all kinds of weather, like the rainy, muddy conditions we've got today. These trucks are also used in big construction projects, hydropower builds, highway systems, and in heavy industry operations. Depending on the density of the material, this truck works best with excavators and loaders running buckets between 16 and 24 cubic yards, or 12.5 to almost 18 cubic meters. And that's exactly the kind of loader that's going to be filling us up today. You'll see which machine it is in just a bit. You can see the cab is pretty comfy for two people, even though this is a smaller truck. Nothing fancy inside. Everything's run through old school switches, and it's got that old-fashioned digital display where the driver keeps an eye on the basic parameters. It also comes with GPS and cameras in all directions. Basically everything a driver actually needs. Nothing flashy, nothing wow, just simple and functional. And here it is, our Sphere, the one we talked about so much in the first two parts. And if you want to know what's inside, check out those first two videos on the end screen at the end of this one. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. In the first two videos with the XCMG and the Terex, our final stop was right there, the primary crusher. But this time we're switching the route a little bit and heading all the way up there into the clouds, where the overburden gets dumped. And the view up there is phenomenal. So take a ride with us and see what's waiting up on top. And like always, while we're riding, let's talk a little more about this truck. So, like I already mentioned, the 7558 falls into the smaller haul truck class, with a payload of about 220,000 pounds, or around 100 tons. But here, we load them way over that. On average, they're carrying around 130 tons. These trucks can come with different engines depending on the exact model, but one of the common ones is the Cummins QST-30C. Some of the newer units even run a 1,068 horsepower LNG, liquefied natural gas engine. Since our truck is about 13 years old, it's running the Cummins QST-30C, a V12 diesel with a 30.5-liter displacement, putting out anywhere from 760 to 1,200 horsepower. It's built for heavy-duty work, mining, big construction, even locomotives. It's got the Quantum Series electronics, a high-pressure modular common rail fuel system, and on some versions, optional SCR, selective catalytic reduction, for cleaner emissions. It's known for solid power density, durability, and pretty good fuel efficiency for a truck working in conditions like these. And since we're already talking about fuel, the 7558 carries about 290 gallons, or 1,100 liters of diesel. With a tank that size and with the weight distribution set at 5149, this little truck can hit a top speed of about 40 miles per hour, or 64 kilometers per hour. Not bad for a small haul truck with a gross weight of around 360,000 pounds, or roughly 164 tons. And to stop a truck that heavy, it uses a brake system that meets all international safety standards, including ISO 3450. That includes service brakes, parking brakes, auxiliary brakes, and emergency brakes. Everything needed to keep a rig this size under control. And just like in the last two videos, we're once again passing the spot where that massive flood happened 2 years ago. If you want to see how it all looked, check out the video in the top right corner. The 7558 measures about 34.4 feet in length, or 10.5 meters, around 18.7 feet wide. or 5.7 meters, and it stands roughly 17.7 feet tall, or 5.4 meters, pretty much the size of medium lakeside cabin. When it comes to rivals in the global industry, this truck is in a tough fight against machines like the Caterpillar 777G, Komatsu HD 785-8, Liebherr T236, and the XCMG XDE 110. And I say tough fight because buyers today demand a lot more: better build quality, advanced tech, and modern safety systems. And that's exactly where Belaz struggles compared to the competition. But there is something Belaz can brag about: a lower price tag and extremely accessible spare parts. And that's a big deal for many minds around the world. Fun fact, since production started in 2012, more than 500 units of the 7558 series have been built. That alone shows how much demand there is for this truck worldwide. All right, you can see we're getting ready for loading, and the machine that's going to fill us up today is the Komatsu WA 900-8 front-end loader, or as we call it in Europe, a wheel loader. Now, the WA 900-8 sits in what I'd call the middle class, and at the same time, the ultra class of Komatsu's lineup. And here's why. Before Komatsu bought Letourneau, well, Joy Global Company, the WA 900 was their ultra class loader. But after Komatsu became the owner of Letourneau, the WA 900 got pushed down into the medium class, because above it now sit some absolute monsters: the WA 1200-6, the WE 1350, the WE 1850, and of course, the legendary WE 2350, the biggest front-end loader in the world. And the only machine that can really challenge the 2350 is the American icon, the new Cat 995. And just like we've been doing so far, let's say a few more things about the WA 900-8. The WA 900-8 is a high-production quarry and mining wheel loader designed for loading trucks in the range of 140,000 to 300,000 pounds, or about 70 to 150 metric tons. Basically the same class as our Belaz 7558 series. The WA 900-8 can be configured for a wide range of applications to meet customer needs. A throttle lock and modulation clutch let the operator load trucks quickly and efficiently, while Komatsu's smart loader logic and the closed center load sensing hydraulic system help reduce fuel consumption. The Z-bar linkage gives the WA 900-8 a best-in-class breakout force of 158,511 pounds, or about 71,900 kilograms force, which is more than enough for the toughest digging conditions. It also offers calm vision with radar obstacle detection, a system with 6 cameras that gives the operator a full bird's-eye view of the working area on a dedicated monitor. It has a brand new lighting package with 22 LED work lamps located all around the machine, turning night shift operations practically into daytime. And when a smaller machine passes by, like me and the grader, boy, for the next 30 seconds, all you see is that intense glare from its lights. The redesigned interior of the new, enlarged cab offers better ergonomics to reduce fatigue, keeping the operator happier and more productive. To help you stay focused and safe, sound insulation and a quieter engine keep the noise levels low. A new fully adjustable seat, air suspended, heated, and ventilated, with an adjustable bolster and integrated standard EPC levers, makes life on the job site a whole lot easier, along with the color TFT monitor and a range of new tools and functions. A new fold-up trainer seat allows in-cab operator training, and for less experienced operators, the auto digging system, semi-auto approach, and semi-auto dump help deliver consistent performance every cycle. The WA 900-8 is powered by the Komatsu SAA 12V140E-7, a 12-cylinder turbo diesel engine that produces around 900 horsepower at 2,050 RPM. It can reach a top speed of 14 miles per hour, or 23 kilometers per hour in third gear going forward, and 15 miles per hour, or 24 kilometers per hour in reverse. It measures about 51.2 feet in length, or 15.6 meters, around 16.4 feet wide, or about 5 meters. and it stands roughly 20.7 feet tall, or around 6.3 meters, all the way to the top of the antenna. With all those measurements and with a fuel tank capacity of about 410 gallons, or roughly 1,555 liters, plus all the fluids this machine carries, the WA900-8 reaches a total operating weight of around 256,000 pounds, or about 116 metric tons. That makes it significantly heavier than our Belaz 7558 series that we're riding in today. Its maximum bucket capacity is 19 cubic yards, or about 14.5 cubic meters, which is enough to fill a truck of this size in just 3 passes. And when it comes to global competitors, honestly, there aren't many. The only real rival in this weight and performance class is the Cat 992. But alright, enough with the numbers and the stats. Let's go explore the upper part of the mine. In parts 1 and 2, we turned right toward the primary crusher. But this time, we're going straight ahead, all the way to the top. Right in front of us is an old Bucyrus RH120 with an uncertain future. The excavator is about the same age as this truck, but it looks like the company doesn't really have much interest in putting it back in service. By the way, guys, under which brand was this RH120 model also known? Let me know down in the comments. Later in the video, we're going to talk a little more about this facility and the one right next to it. But for now, we're heading up. On our right side, well, you'll see it better from the next angle in just a second. Here we go, that's better. So, on our right side, like we've said many times before, and we'll say it again, this is our sphere with the ore stockpile. Right next to it is the new flotation plant. Above that is the filtration plant, and all the way at the top is the old flotation plant. Here you can see the conveyor that carries ore from the old crusher to the old flotation plant. And the ore from the new primary crusher, the spot where we were dumping in parts 1 and 2, goes here into the new filtration and flotation plant. And this line stretching over the hill, well, we'll talk about that a bit later in the video. And this is our host, the main star of our little franchise, the guy who drove us in part 1 and part 2. Show some love and drop a thumbs up in the comments for our best driver. And this big slope that looks like a hill is actually a dam. In just a moment, you'll see the artificial lake that formed behind it. We'll talk a little more about this lake once we get to the dumping site. Here we are. We're gonna turn right here because if you keep going straight, the road keeps climbing and it's covered in thick fog. It's too risky to drive up there right now, so we'll dump the load here instead. Here you can see just how thick the fog is. You can't see anything over the edge. If we had gone straight up, we wouldn't have been able to see the edge at all because of the fog. This time we're dumping the mud that the graders and dozers pushed off the road earlier. But we're dumping everything in one single spot so the dozer can push it later and shape the edge properly. If we were unloading the mud all over the place, the edge wouldn't stay solid, it would start cracking. And when that happens, trucks can sink or slip, just like you can see in the lower left corner. And there's a real risk of tipping over the edge. Under that fog is the lake I told you we'd talk about earlier. But since the fog is too thick and we can't see the whole thing, we'll take a look at some footage I recorded about a year and a half ago. At least this way you can get an idea of what it looks like. And here it is. When you're standing right on the edge, the view is even more awesome, especially around noon when the sunlight hits the water and it gets that bluish tint. But you're probably wondering where all this water comes from and what its purpose is. Well, this isn't a natural lake. All of this water comes from the flotation process down at the plant. After the ore is crushed and ground into fine particles, it goes into flotation tanks where chemicals and air separate the valuable minerals from the waste. Once that process is done, what's left is a mix of water and fine tailings, basically slurry, and that slurry gets pumped up here and stored behind this dam. The water slowly settles and separates from the solids, and over time, the lake grows as more and more tailings come in. So yeah, it may look beautiful from up here, but this whole lake exists because of the mining and flotation process. And this is exactly what I was talking about earlier, these cracks. This is what happens when loose, muddy material gets dumped on the edge over and over. The whole thing slowly slides downward. The edge splits open, and that's when it gets really tricky. All right, the first load is dumped. Let's head back down and grab another one. You can probably see that the haul road is in awful condition. Ever since I released part 1 more than 2 weeks ago, it's been raining non-stop. And it's still raining right now while I'm editing this video. Our roads have basically turned into a nightmare. The machines just can't keep up with how fast the rain tears everything apart. And maybe it looks like we're moving smooth and easy, but that's only because the camera mounted on the cab has really good stabilization. But let's take a look at what it actually looks like inside the cab without any stabilization. Let's see what it's really like for us riding in this thing. Yeah, pretty comfy, right? Kind of feels like riding a bull at a rodeo. And here's that line stretching over the hills, the one I said I'd talk about. Well, this whole area where the Tonley trucks are dumping right now is part of the overburden crusher conveyor system, or as we call it here, simply the transportation system. Why transportation system? Because the overburden that doesn't get hauled up to the waste dump gets dumped right here into the crusher. The crusher breaks the material into smaller pieces, and then a conveyor, over 2 kilometers long, carries it all the way to, where? To the old mine. And that old mine, which back in the 1960s used to be the #1 copper mine in Europe, is now being backfilled with material from this new open pit. Sounds awesome, right? Well, it really is awesome. It's awesome because when this system was built more than 20 years ago, it was the biggest and most expensive industrial project in Serbia. And with its efficiency, moving about 3,086,468,000 pounds, or roughly 1,400,000 metric tons of overburden every month from the new pit to the old one. The company saves a massive amount of money on fuel and equipment. Well, I tried to explain how this transportation system works as simply as possible, but if you want to see the full video about it, hit the link in the top right corner. The video is amazing. You won't regret watching it. Amazing just like this view of the smelter in the city. You really have to be here to feel it. We'll enjoy this view for a moment, and then we're heading back to our main video. All right, we're back. While I was filming, I originally thought we'd wrap it up after this run, but since it's getting dark, I figured, why not record one more round in the fog at night? Just so you guys can see what driving conditions look like in this kind of environment. So yeah, we decided to film this load and one more after it. Let's go for another round. Looks like this one's having a bit of trouble. It seems he managed to pull it off on the second try. We'll wait for the trucks to pass, and then we'll head out as well. Since we were climbing that big uphill, I'm pretty sure we lost about 15% of the load by the time we reached the top. And on average, we're doing about 11 miles per hour, or roughly 18 kilometers per hour. And we've arrived. You can see how quickly it's getting dark. The visibility is getting worse by the minute. The next load is going to be in complete darkness with really poor visibility. Since everything is the same and the cycle repeats, we shortened the ride to the loader and the loading itself. We decided to continue filming right before the next dump. As you can see, it's now completely dark and the visibility is really bad. We'll wait here for the truck in front of us to dump first, because it's not safe for both of us to go there together with visibility this poor. All right, now it's our turn. You'll see what a mess the dumping site is right now. You can't even see the edge until you're about 50 feet away. Luckily, the driver here is taking it slow, but it gets really tricky when you have to back up toward the edge to dump. The visibility is terrible, and those cracks you saw earlier in the video, you can't see them at all in these conditions, which is why the driver has to stay really careful and fully focused. One thing that makes this a bit easier is the dozer that's up here right now. Its powerful lights are lighting up the whole dumping area. Otherwise, it would be pitch dark out here without it. While we were heading downhill, we noticed that the truck in front of us didn't have any rear lights. The driver turned on his backup work light just to stay visible from behind. But in that condition, the truck is considered faulty, so he headed straight to the workshop. But in some moments, when he turns to the right, his side light can't be seen at all, so he ends up with no visible signals, as you can see here. And in weather like this, that's a really risky situation. Well guys, just like this truck slowly disappearing into the fog, we're disappearing from this video too. Thanks for sticking with us all the way through this muddy, foggy journey. If you enjoyed what we're doing, it would mean a lot if you supported us. A like and a sub are always appreciated. Until the next video, stay safe out there.